Did she struggle at all? Or?
Of course she struggled, yes.
As they were tying her?
As they were tying her down.
Tying these leather straps, she was struggling?
Absolutely, crying and agitated.
I went to Miss Anthony's cell and had put her in restraints for the escort. When I went there, no one seemed to remember that she had her own personal radio, was listening to that, so she knew that there was some issue about it because of the broadcast on the radio. She was showing some emotional distress at that point.
Screaming, agitated, thrashing, but there's only so much movement that you can actually do when you're lying on a bed and strapped to it.
She wasn't saying words, was she? Or?
Screaming.
She had signs of hyperventilation with heavy, deep breathing that was taking place. She then bent over and made complaints that she was feeling sick to her stomach and was going to throw up.
What was most chilling for me is that there were flowers, of course not natural flowers. There were pictures, paper machete type flowers that were made, but they were black in color, which I found very disturbing.
Can someone let me... Come on!
Kept saying the waist chains are getting tighter and tighter. I mean, please loosen them, and we told her we couldn't because we knew they weren't tight when she sat down in the chair. It
really troubles me to even try to envision what was going on with her, especially after her saying, help me. I mean, I couldn't help her as she was walking up the stairs originally, and I certainly couldn't help her while she was lying on a bed. Again, which I found very barbaric.
Straight back out to the lawyer, Susan Moss, Ray Giudice, Christopher A. Mulch. Would this testimony come in at a penalty phase at trial? What about it, Moss?
Oh, absolutely. It certainly could. It could go into what really was concerning this woman. Was it when she found out that the body of her child was found and there was little reaction? Or was it when you found out that you're going to face the death penalty and you go into convulsions?
Giudice?
I agree with Sue. I think her overall demeanor from the first day that she's been in a jail, on the phone with her family, all the way through this reaction and maybe later, can come into evidence.
Amos?
Well, they can put it on, but it's not going to be very probative. I mean, they have to establish this is an aggravated murder of some kind, which I don't think there's any possible way they're going to be able to do.
Amos?
Yes, ma'am.
The fact that she shed not a tear when they found her child's body, but she allegedly has to be restrained.
We don't know why she was being restrained. We don't know why she was being restrained. I mean, she could have been restrained for any reason, and there's no evidence that she didn't attack another inmate. She didn't stab somebody with a knife.
It was the day the state announces they will seek the death penalty.
That's what this witness
and she says, I'm so pissed.
That's what this witness says. But even
that somebody
if that's
murdered
true,
her daughter.
But even if that's true,
pissed. She's gonna, not sorry she did it, but she's sorry she's going to hell for it. That's the way it will look to a jury.
Does everybody who commits murder and isn't sorry about it get the death penalty, Nancy? Is that how it works?
No.
Of course not.
But
so
back to A. Mulch, I want to see A. Mulch. I don't know how many death penalty cases you have been involved with, but when it comes to sentencing, her demeanor will be very important to both sides in the courtroom.
Of course it will be. It will be somewhat probative, but I think they're probably going to be way more concerned about whether there's any other thing, something else they can do with her other than execute her for a murder that happens all the time, everywhere in America. This case is not unusual at all.
Everywhere in America. A. Mulch,
how many
I guess
people
you live, and let's say you're in D.C. Let me guess. You live in Alexandria, you live in some Tony neighborhood, maybe in some fancy condo. Do they find little girls' dead bodies 15 houses from your home every day, A. Mulch?
I think if you put Lenamon back on, he'll tell you that in Florida, where this is not in my neighborhood,
well, you said everywhere in America, didn't you?
All the time.
You said everywhere in America.
Yeah, do people murder their children in Alexandria, Virginia? Yes,
you said
they do.
Everywhere. Have they been around the corner from your house, A. Mulch?
Yes, they do. People murder their children in my neighborhood.
Child found dead in your neighborhood.
Nancy, if we want to restrict it to my street or my zip code, or where are we?
Embarrassing you. I'm going to go back to
What's embarrassing
Terrence.
is that the prosecution is seeking the death penalty in a case they have no business seeking the death penalty in.
Well, that shows how you feel about the life of a 2-year-old little girl. But you know what? That's your business. I want to go back to Lenamon. Terrence Lenamon has tried many, many death penalty cases. He was on Tot Mom's case until apparently he and the lead attorney, dare I say it, Jose Baez, have had a split of opinion. Was it over your wise counsel that they use a mental health defense, Mr. Lenamon?
Well, I mean, I think that you can look back on some of the conversations we had prior to this, and you can just kind of take the next step and see that we had a difference in what I believed should have been the approach, which is, I think, mental health related. And just looking at the public information that's out there. And by the way, Nancy, you know, this information that you're talking about, this inmate that's giving regarding the strapping down and so forth, that could be a very dangerous thing for the prosecutor. Because you remember, the penalty phase, prosecutors like to keep it very sterile. And if I was a defense attorney on this, I may make the analogy of the strapping down to the gurney as to the execution and try to play that out to get the jury to think about what is really going to happen when they stick a needle in her arm.
Mr. Lenamon, now, I admit that you have a great experience in defending death penalty cases, but there is nothing sterile about the murder of 2-year-old Kelly Anthony. It ain't gonna be sterile, Mr. Lenamon. With all due respect. Out to the lines, Linda in New York. Hi, Linda.
Hi, Nancy. I love you. I have two...
Thank you for calling in, dear. What's your question?
Okay, I have two questions. Why is it that on a talk show, these defense attorneys make a big deal saying that Kelly's body could have been placed there while Casey's in jail? Question number one. Doesn't that just mean that she didn't do it, but she could have had an accomplice like Brother Lee who moved the body? And number two, couldn't this be the person that her parents are really defending and not so much Casey?
You know, Linda in New York, all things are possible, but very quickly, Sue Moss, I think the reason defense attorneys harp on that possibility that her body was moved while Top Mom was behind bars because they don't have anything else they can argue.
That's exactly right. They do not have an argument. So what they're going to try to do is blame it and say that, well, Crunk really looked at, and you know, when they're going to make an argument that this body was moved when she was in jail, it's not going to work, but that's all they got.
Joining me right now from Sacramento via webcam, Leonard Padilla, the bounty hunter who will be under oath in this case. He has spent time with Top Mom and the family. When you first heard this inmate's account of this bizarre shrine Top Mom has built in her jail cell to Kelly, complete with black mache paper roses, did you believe it? Did you believe the inmate?
Yeah, I'm not on the webcam, incidentally. I'm on the telephone. But, no, I asked Tracy, I says, do you believe that? Is that something that she would do? And Tracy says, yeah, that's Casey. I really sincerely believe that is something that she would do while incarcerated and while in custody. It didn't sound strange to her. And I believed Tracy probably knows Casey as good as anybody under the circumstances.
Now, Mr. Padilla, the inmate claims that Top Mom has stockpiled all sorts of treats, beauty products in her jail cell. What's with that?
Well, she's kind of a hoarder. When Tracy was staying with her there, she had all sorts of things that she would hoard from before she went into custody. Beads, making items for bracelets, necklaces. She's just a pack rat. She hoards everything.
Out to Dr. Patricia Saunders, clinical psychologist. We need a shrink. Saunders, weigh in.
Well, the picture I get is of a greedy child sitting in her prison cell surrounded by food and makeup. I don't think there's any mental health issues here. She's a drama queen, and screaming, "I'm pissed," was probably the way she manipulated her parents.
And apparently it worked, Dr. Patricia Saunders. Very quickly, back to the lines. Michelle, California. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Nancy.
What's your question, dear?
Well, Nancy, first let me say my family and I love seeing you. Keep it real. But my question is Nancy, Casey over and over stated that she was at the nightclub looking for Zanny the Nanny, a club that she thought she'd be at. Well, if that's the case, how could Zanny the Nanny be watching her child and be at the club?
What about it, A. Mulch?
I don't know. You'd have to ask her lawyer about that. I mean, Casey has said so many different things at so many different times. It's impossible to keep track of them.
I'm asking your legal opinion as a defense attorney. Don't jump up and say,
Casey
ask
has
her
said
lawyer.
At different times. It's impossible to keep track of everything Casey has said at different times. There's
okay,
no debate.
Thank you.
She can't tell the truth.
Giudice, how would you combat that?
Well, what I would do is I would watch this show if I was a defense lawyer, because the folks that are calling in are typical jurors, and they are rejecting these nonsensical defenses one after another, night after night. And I would use that. This is a poll. The voters, your viewers, are telling the defense, don't go to these areas because we don't buy it. And that's what I would be doing right now.